Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Mike, you had momentum when it was a 3-point game, and then the offense goes 3 and out. They get the punt return. This team does not seem to be able to keep momentum. Has that been an issue all year long, or is it just short of day?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously the punt return was a big play in the game, and so.
Well, welcome in. Purple Daily comments from YouTube. Monday staple here at the old Score North. Mike Zimmer very excited by a question from our colleague downstairs, Joe Schmidt, to answer why the momentum was not great. In fairness to Joe, I don't think there was an answer that Zim gave yesterday that was more than 20 seconds or so. So that sort of encapsulated the day as the Vikings lose to the Rams. Zolgad, Declan Goff, again, Purple Daily, as always, sponsored by our friends at Surly Brewing Company, presenting sponsor, Surly Brewing, and also sponsored by our friends at TCL TV. Enjoy more with TCL. Hopefully you're watching sports and getting the ultimate satisfaction of sports viewing because you have a TCL TV. Declan Goff, comments from YouTube. It's all about you and
it is.
The commenters.
The commenters have commented on our YouTube page since the last Ventline episode has been posted. A lot of conversations about resetting, and then also a few things on where to head for the next 2 weeks after this debacle that happened against the Rams. So we'll start with this one from Dennis. Dennis says, "You guys are nuts. The owners are not going to do a hard set. All personnel you want gone will be back next year because the owners don't care, because as long as their revenue continues to flow, there is no reason for any change. They only care about their bottom line." Judd, do the Wilfs only care about their bottom line, and do you think everyone is back next season? And that would include, obviously, Rick Spielman, Zimmer, Cousins.
Yep. No and no. I don't agree, and I don't think they're all back. I do. Am I going to be shocked if one is back? Maybe two. Maybe Rick in a different job? Absolutely not. The Wilfs are first and foremost fans, and they want to win. And they also want to keep the bottom line as successful as possible. And I think that they see what we all see, which is there is an apathy growing towards this franchise, which it's the Vikings, so it's never going to be like it is with the Twins, where it's just like people bail left and right. But there's an apathy growing with this franchise that it doesn't take a genius to see. So they're going to make changes. This has run its course. You'd have to be an idiot to look at this and say, oh, it's fine. It'll be fine. The Wilfs, as Doogie has said 1,000 times, he's right. The Wilfs had huge expectations coming into this year that this team was going to be very successful and very good. And they have not been. They've been very disappointing. So, but are they mercenaries? No, they are fans. They're big fans. They want to win. So do I think they're afraid of being awful? Yes. Do I think that they are Red McCombs? I don't care about the team. No. So I'll defend the Wilfs. Look, they're incredibly rich people. So yes, they care about their cash. They care about income. I'm not for 1 second saying that they don't, but I'll defend them and saying they also want to win. They are football fans first and foremost. There are other businesses incredibly successful. I think they're fine there. This one, they want to make as much as possible, but Dex, they want to win. These are not bad owners. Craig Leopold, another huge fan, is a good owner. They're all misguided at times. We all are, but I'm not going to dump on these guys as, businessmen who don't care about their teams. I think they do.
I agree. I don't think the Wilfs are so hard pressed in their bottom line financially to say they wouldn't make moves. If anything, I think they can recognize that financially things are stale, and you can't just continue to do the same things if you're looking to improve your bottom line either. So I think in general, I don't know if it's a hard all three dragon reset like we've been talking and kind of even wanting to happen. But I do think there's some changes. There's no way they just run this all back again next season, pending them literally making it to the NFC Championship game or winning a Super Bowl. DB says, coaching is the problem. Cousins is not the problem? What do you think of DB's comment? Is coaching the bigger problem? Is Kirk the bigger problem? How would you assess that, Judd?
The whole thing does not work. Quit defending anybody. The whole thing does not work. The whole thing is flawed. There are elements that should be kept, who are very good. Justin Jefferson is very good. But we have this weird knee-jerk reaction to be like, it's Kirk. No, it's Mike. No, it's the whole thing. It doesn't work. And Kirk and Mike don't work together. And I don't think Kirk is wired mentally to win a Super Bowl or make a playoff run. And look, I mean, Kirk's been doing this for a long time. He's never been successful in the playoffs. He's won a game or two, but he's never been. So the whole thing, they took a chance. It didn't work. I would be willing to let a new coach and GM decide on Kirk, but I'm not going to be surprised if they take a look at Kirk and say, I don't think so. So, like, we've got this weird need to pick sides. Don't pick sides. Turn on everybody. That's what you do right now. Turn on them all, aside from a few special players. But this is why I want a GM to come in with a fresh viewpoint, because that person can then say, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you stay. What I don't want is Rick Spielman to make a decision on a quarterback ever again for this franchise. I don't.
I think it's most likely of the three that stay. I think it is actually Spielman, if I was a betting man. I know some people might even disagree and say, well, Kirk's the one that would most likely to stay because of his cap hit and just the hurdles you have to jump through to possibly move him. I think Spielman's the one who's most likely to stay, but I think it's time to just recognize that, hey, we had a run here of all these guys in charge, and it's just it's gotten stale. It's not working. You have to address it, move on from it. I think it's a little bit of both to answer his question there. I think it's both Kirk and Zimmer's fault to a degree. But I do think in general they just need a completely hard reset. JH wants to know, Dear Wilfs, he has 3 steps for the Wilfs, Judd.
Okay.
Step 1, find a new GM. Step 2, find the trade partner for Kirk Cousins. Step 3, find the head coach. Now, I will say those are 3 steps that are what we've been talking about. But in terms of the order of operations, I'm guessing you would fire the head coach first.
Uh-huh.
You would then, if you wanted to, reassess your general manager and then go into the thought process of trading Kirk Cousins. Is that probably the more right order of operations there?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah. I would. I think Mike's gone January 10th. And again, I'm going back to, I think the Jeremy Fowler report that Spielman might be kicked upstairs is what's going to, if Rick Spielman's job is going to change, I don't think he'll flat out be fired. I think he'll be promoted to a different job that's not GM. And then you would bring in the GM after that. And then he would hire the coach. And keep in mind too, though. So while you would move fairly quickly on the coach and GM for sure, Dex, you don't move on Kirk until March. So like there's a month plus potentially, or at least a solid month to get people in place to decide on Kirk. Kirk is not an issue of any sort really until March. So Kirk is the last piece. And I think your strategy is probably right. And I think Mike is gone for sure. Rick, I'm not sure about. I think it's a good idea. And again, I don't think he's gone. But yeah, the whole thing is, so it's not that it goes, Mike's fired, Rick is promoted or fired, and Kirk is gone. The Kirk thing is after. So the whole Kirk thing is not part of what's going to transpire immediately with Mike and Rick potentially. Kirk is after the fact. And now, and this also includes, to be fair to Kirk, this includes, Harrison Smith and Thielen. If you brought in a new GM and coach, I guarantee you they would not like rubber stamp this whole thing. Oh, Rick Spielman was the greatest ever. This is great. They would make changes. Kirk might be one of them. But the player evaluation thing, you've got February to do. And then when the league year opens in March, first couple weeks in March, I believe, when that takes place, that's when you see the decisions start to get made on guys like Kirk and Smith and probably some more veteran players.
Wayne wants to know, you've had 2 head coaching options and he wants your thoughts on both. He says, Eric Bieniemy versus Kellen Moore. Your thoughts, please. Judd, make the case for which one you'd like more to be the Vikings head coach in 2022.
I'm gonna bail a little bit on this question and say this.
Okay.
I think you would need to know more and talk to both. What's their philosophy? What have they learned? Like Kellen Moore is a hot name, but we don't know that much about him. He might be great, but like we always go down this path of, oh, the OC is great, right? But like as we, going back to the conversations that we've had the last couple of weeks with Mackey about this, Dex, can this person handle 53 to 60 plus grown men as a leader? Like just calling plays, you're not the OC, you're the head coach. Can he delegate successfully? So Bieniemy intrigues me. Now Bieniemy will ride players hard. Case in point here, we've discussed this. Adrian Peterson, he was Peterson's first position coach. And eventually, I mean, those two got into it at times. But he's worked for Andy Reid. He's seen success. He's got ideas. Kellen Moore, same thing. But I don't think it's fair to make like a judgment without knowing a damn thing about these guys as potential coaches. Like this is why you got to sit down and talk to them and have a plan, right? So I'd be just spitballing and guessing. Both intrigue me. I will say this, the football thing to do, which is to hire the exact opposite of the guy that you had, is probably Moore right now. He's young. He's an offensive mind. I'm sure he's fiery, but he's not Zimmer, old cantankerous guy. So that wouldn't surprise me one bit. But I would really like to, and this is why if you get a new GM, it helps, because that person probably knows people. And like he'll know things going in. And that's where you get a reset of sorts that I think becomes pretty important.
Yeah, I'm bullish on Kellen Moore. Obviously, I think he's the guy that I like more. But I'm not going to die on the hill if they do this interview process and they bring in a Bieniemy and they bring in a Doug Peterson. I'm curious on who is evaluating that decision. But I'm bullish mostly on Kellen Moore. I think he's an offensive guru genius. I think he's that next guy. But I'm also going to trust the process of the interviewing. I'm not just going to be married to one dude here. There's a lot of good candidates out there, and Moore is young. He could be flawed by all measures.
Which is why I don't want Rick doing this. I want a new GM. I want somebody. I no longer trust Rick enough to have him lead this search.
Yep. Next question here from Dominique. He says, why do every year under Zim regimes we have a chance to make the playoffs or need a game to make the playoffs and the team folds? Judd, how do you try to quantify this? Because this goes back to 2016 when the team got off to 5-0 but still could control their destiny and couldn't muster to do so. In 2018, you just got to beat the second string Bears the last game of the season. You couldn't do so. Last year in 2020, you melt down in December. Obviously what happened yesterday against the Rams. How do you kind of quantify this?
This team, first of all, gets unnecessarily tight at times. We've seen that before. And they love to come from behind as far as we're 2 games below 500. Here come the Vikings. Okay, now we're 7-7. Oh my God, there's pressure. Oh no. Oh no. And Zim gets tight and the team gets tight. Or the team doesn't know how to handle. They just don't have, and this is the entire team, they don't have that gene that basically allows you to embrace adversity and overcome it. The thing that made the 2017 season so much fun and so special was they did it until that last game, which was a disaster. They did it. Bradford gets hurt week 1. That thing could have fallen apart. Keenum steps in. If I'm not mistaken, they lose at Pittsburgh. So we're all like, this is going to be a long year, right? They lost 3 games. Keenum embraced it. Now, was Keenum a great quarterback? Absolutely not. He had a magical year. But you know what? For that year, it was just this magic carpet ride, which football teams have the right to go on. The Vikings don't seem to have the ability under Mike, though, to take that step. Because you're right. Like in every way, shape, and form, they have fallen apart, right? 2016, undefeated, unbelievable. They lose a game at Philadelphia. Mike goes ballistic. My offensive line was soft. The worst 4-letter word that you can use to football players. You can call them F-bombs all day long and they don't care. Soft? That's the worst thing. And so all of those things, to your point, last year, rallying back, right? Rallying back. Now here's your chance. Can't do it. This year, same thing. They don't, it just feels like all of the most important people, head coach, quarterback, everybody gets uptight. Everybody gets wound way too tight. And then yesterday, as Jefferson said, I walked in the locker room and there was no sense of this is urgency. It's like they can't handle it. It drives you crazy. It's why I'm done. It's why I'm done with the current incarnation.
Josh says after the Vikes lose to the Packers and officially are eliminated, the lone remaining smartest thing this team can do this season, and this is going to be the next theme of our questions here, Jug, because I have a ton more comments on it, is to start Kellen Mond the final game against the Bears. This will be a positive, regardless of the result in his development, and it will be something the new regime can evaluate and work with next spring and summer. If the Vikings lose to the Pack, Judd, just percentage chance you think Kellen Mond starts that meaningless game against the Bears, just as of right now. So they lose to the Packers this Sunday night. What's the chance that Kellen Mond does start the finale?
To be clear, this is not what I would do. So yes. So this is what they would do. 5% chance. Very small.
5%. Okay.
5%. Kirk's going to want to start. And I don't think the Vikings have the ability to see what people are saying, which is give the kid a chance. We know nothing about him. I think it's an incredibly small chance. I love the idea. I'm fine with it. Like, we have no idea. We don't know a damn thing about this kid. But I think it's 5%. You? What's your opinion?
I think if they get their asses kicked in Lambeau, which is a realistic possibility, I think it's like a 50-50. I think it's a complete toss-up.
You think Mike would approve it? See, I think Mike would be like, well, I'm not going to do something for the future if I'm and Kirk would be like, but I'm the quarterback. I should play. I don't mind the idea one bit. I just don't think they would do it.
Well, what I'm curious is if they, let's say they lose to the Packers and they do what I suggested that they did on Mackie and Joe, which is they blow out Mike with 1 week to go. They name Andre Patterson for that last game or whoever the hell, some slappy. Then it's obvious. I think it's a lock that Kellen Mond would start, right?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say lock.
Not a lock, but a better chance.
But a better chance. Yeah. Yes. Okay. But I just don't think I don't think they're going to blow Mike out until after the season is done. I really don't. I don't think they're going to create. I shouldn't guarantee it. I just don't think they're going to, because he's been here so long and had good years for the most part. I don't think they would fire him like that. But there is a case to be made, Declan, that you're exactly right, because the fact that you can talk to people right now makes it intriguing. It makes it intriguing. I mean, Jacksonville, you think they're not making some phone calls today?
Right.
Las Vegas, you think they're not? So, like, the competition here is going to be quicker.
David says he just says play Kellen Mond these last 2 weeks. Now they won't start Kellen Mond against the Packers unless a certain quarterback lands on a COVID list. But I think if you were to lose the Packer game, it's basically an exhibition game, man. It means absolutely nothing for both those teams. I think if the Bears and the Vikings were smart, they would start this process. They would start their head coaching process this time next week. I'm actually surprised. We're obviously recording this on Monday afternoon, so maybe Matt Nagy gets blown out by the time this posts and whatnot.
Bears don't do it. Bears never have.
But the Bears never
fired
have
a coach during a season ever. The one thing with Mond too, though, is I'll caution you on this: we have no clue. Like, we don't know anything about the guy. We have zero idea. Him handing the football off that I had AJ tweet out got 10,000 views because nobody knows a damn thing.
I know, it's remarkable.
I mean, that's, people are excited and they think he might be something, but we know nothing about this kid.
Seven says, why don't we use Kene Nwangu and Mon Moore and explode the offense? You thought about, because at the beginning of this NFL season, there was like Trey Lance packages, right? And there was these weird little packages for specific quarterbacks. The Eagles are using a little 2 quarterback set sometimes with Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew, and teams have done this. San Francisco, same thing.
Sure.
Why don't the Vikings use Kene Nwangu and maybe even Kellen Mond more?
Well, to me, that's 2 separate points, because Mond, I don't know. Like I can theorize about Mond, but again, we know nothing about him. Nwangu, I have no idea. It's one of the most. So he was used again with Cook out, Madison starting. Kene was used again to run the football like he is a normal running back, and I don't get it. How do you not develop a package of plays? How do you not? I mean, he is not. First of all, he's not like let's just have him run up the A gap. That's not him. He is a incredibly fast, special. I think he's gifted. Like, I think he's got some gifts. Why you wouldn't come up with a package of plays? Like, I saw it in training camp before he got hurt, Dex. I have no idea. Like, Mond, I don't know. Mond could play and fall flat on his face. I have no clue. But I'm convinced that if you came up with a creative package of plays for Nwangu, that you would have an opportunity that they would work. Or at least one of them. So I don't know. It's this team. There are so many things that I just don't get.
Mm-hmm. Michael says, I wonder if the Vikings offensive players really want to be contenders. They seem to not gel, and I don't think they see potential with their current OC, coach, and quarterback. I will say the frustration level on all these playmakers, Thielen, Jefferson, even Dalvin Cook, I know he wasn't active last week. They look upset. They look PO'd, especially Thielen and Jefferson, I think the most. They look like the leading candidates of who looks really upset out there.
Which is why Stephon Diggs wanted out.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs didn't decide he didn't like the state. Stephon Diggs looked at what this team was doing and said, hold on a second here. You've got me, and at the time, Thielen and Dalvin, and this is what you're doing. So, yeah, I don't blame these guys. Again, I think it just goes back to one simple phrase. It doesn't work. It doesn't gel. It doesn't feel right. Like, they make plays occasionally, but you look at the opportunity and then the execution. I'm sorry. It does not work. And I just saw a stat tweeted today about how no one should complain about Jefferson's targets because he's being targeted a ton. And I don't know if it's going to set a mark or something. But again, that's the problem with statistics is we look at them and make judgments. You got to watch the games. Justin Jefferson can have as many targets as he can have 20 targets. But when he gets one in the red zone in that game yesterday, one, and you were in the red zone 5 times, that's not a good use of one of your best players. No, so like our problem is we look at the analytics and statistics, and this goes back to a subject, Declan, that you've talked about with hockey a ton. We don't have people to watch the games. They just look at so Justin Jefferson and Thielen and the frustration that's been felt for quite some time, I think completely understandable. And the last time I checked, statistical compilation doesn't win games. So like Justin Jefferson has all these stats. He can't complain. Actually, he can complain. Justin Jefferson has never worn a Vikings jersey and been over 500. That's why he can complain.
It's remarkable. Yeah.
He's won a national championship, correct? In
Yes,
college. So he knows what that looks like, right? So, and do you think that Justin Jefferson goes home? It's like, got my stats. He wants a win.
No.
He wants a win.
Yeah.
So
I think he's very proud of. I think he's proud of his accomplishments and his statistics for sure, because he's been vocal about that. But he cares about winning. He cares about winning
because he knows what it looks like.
Yeah. Last one here from Tony after the one takeaway from yesterday's game, and I'm just doing this probably to set you off.
Don't do this.
They don't have their starting defensive end. They're not running up the middle. They're running against our ends. Can't you people see that?
That's not
Tony
true.
trying to justify the run defense being a sieve.
Tony, you go back and watch. Sony Michel is running. They did have some runs, to the outside. But go back and watch. They also had runs that are going through the defensive tackles. So, like, I don't know what to say to that other than it's just wrong. It's incorrect.
Yeah.
Are they going at the ends of times? Of course, they should. But for what you're paying those defensive tackles and Kendricks too, you are not getting what you paid for. And that's
I
your
agree.
fault if you're the Vikings because you signed them. They're your guys. So, yeah. I'm getting the occasion. It feels like it's like not that much now, Dex. I'm getting the occasional, well, can't you see? I got one about, well, we had our JV yesterday against the Rams varsity. I'm like, well, first of all, that's not true because the Rams offensive line was their JV once their center got hurt. And the other thing is, last time I checked, Kendricks, Tomlinson, Pierce, varsity players. So
No kidding.
But anyway, these complaints about like you guys don't understand are becoming more and more isolated. And I feel like there's just a small group now who feels like, oh man, just bring these guys back. I like these guys. That's your right. You're just, unfortunately, that's your right, but you're wrong.
Well, that'll wrap up our comments edition from YouTube. But Judd Zolgad, when you finish up reading those comments, no. When you finish reading those comments,
give it to me. Give it to me. Yep.
Okay, you finish reading those comments, and you get a furious one like that sets you off, like Tony just said about the defensive ends. What's the thing you go and turn to the most?
You know what I like to do? I like to come on and get happy with my favorite beer, Surly Furious. You know, it's funny that a beer, Surly Furious, the very definition of being angry and then livid, right? Well, in this case, the twist is it makes me happy. Surly Furious, and it's not just my favorite beer. I have found that more and more on Twitter, people are showing me their cans, like Phil encourages. I saw some delicious Surly pours or cans at the Vikings game because Surly Furious available several locations throughout US Bank Stadium. Today, I got a picture on Twitter of a guy who is leaving town, airport bar, Surly Furious. Surly, and the pour, I'm not going to kid you. The pour looked perfect. Great airport pour. So good. So fantastic.
And when we say show us your cans, don't be afraid to also show us your taps.
Oh yeah,
show us your taps. I will say Surly out of any way the can, it doesn't matter. The pour, a Surly tap is primo. Had one last night at the local dive bar. I did. I had some wings and a Surly Furious. I forgot to show you your taps.
Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Partners and you forgot. But yes, so Surly Furious is the way to go. And if you do want to show us your cans or your taps at JZolgad, ZULGAD on Twitter, I will retweet it with a pithy comment. I will tag Declan and Phil. They will provide a pithy comment. It'll just start it's a club, the Surly Club. You know what? Club. You can't count on the Vikings. You can't count on Minnesota sports, but you know what you can count on, Declan Goff? Surly Brewing, Surly Furious. It's the way to go.
Stay surly, stay furious. Hit that subscribe button on this channel for daily Minnesota Vikings entertainment. Alex Booney joining with Judd Zolgad and even the Kellen Mond, AJ Fredrickson tomorrow to produce Purple Daily. We'll be talking to you.